I just spent 2 entire weekends playing through 7 newly re-released beat-em-ups, thank you very much. Look, you have no idea how cathartic these can be. I was excited to check out QuByte Classic's newest release, the Beat-em-up collection, as I love going back in time to check out games from the Genesis and Super Nintendo era that I initially missed out on. And just know they provided a digital copy of their game for this review, but everything I say here is my own opinion. When I started doing the research on the 7 brawlers in this new collection, I slowly began to realize something. Long story short, these aren't games that are necessarily new to current gaming platforms. In fact, QuByte has released at least 5 of these games previously, some by themselves and others in small bundles. So just be aware that you might already own some of these games. I did. But this is not just a bundle of existing downloads for the nice price of $20 or less, depending on sales. QuByte has imported all 7 games into their latest front end for a more seamless experience, as well as adding a few new extra features for the games. This is the layout they also used for their recent Accolade Sports collection, and it's very clean and easy to navigate. Oh, and if you're wondering, as far as the Xbox goes, which is what I'm playing on, this is a new collection of achievements, as this counts as a separate release in the Xbox store. I would imagine that PlayStation trophies and Steam achievements work the same way. It's also available on Switch, which of course has no reward system. Now, let me say this before getting into the details of each individual game. No matter what nitpicky things I'm about to say, I am very glad this collection exists. Several of these are games that did not come out worldwide, and making these conveniently available with new localizations is exactly the kind of video game preservation I like to see. Now, do I wish there was a little more context provided within the overall collection itself? Yes. I shouldn't have to go hunt down all this information to tell you why each game is new and notable and potentially special. The collection should tell us why each game is special. Hey everybody, Chuck from the editing booth here. I just want to apologize real quick to QuByte and all of you listening. If you get deeper into the menus, there is a section called Extras, and if you go into it, you will get what they call curiosities, which is basically just background information on the game. Also galleries of box art and manuals and such. And also a sound test. So I apologize for not digging this far deeply into the menus to find that some of the context is in fact here in the game, and that is appreciated. I wish it was a little more front and center, but it is here, so I take back my previous complaint. I may say it again here towards the end of the video. Just understand, I know the content is in the game. It's there. It's just hidden behind a couple of more menus, and I wouldn't necessarily think it would be called curiosities. But anyway, my apologies to QuByte. Now let's get back to the review. Anyway, let's just get into the games. I'll start with Legend from 1994, which was made by a French company called Arcade Zone, and was published exclusively on the Super Nintendo everywhere in the world except Japan. It's a really standard one of these, although genre sticklers would call this a hack and slash instead of a beat-em-up. Fans of Golden Axe will find it familiar in a lot of ways, although the gameplay is slower than Golden Axe. You're a dude with a sword, and you've got to defeat Clovis, the son of the king, before he does some super evil stuff. Now go and hack and slash everything you find. Your walk animation looks like you should be moving twice as fast as you actually are. As you fast walk slowly through the levels, you'll encounter typical medieval things, but also these goddamn birds, which are a pain in the ass. Sometimes you have to kill dogs, which sucks. Boss encounters don't actually name the villains, instead just calling them enemy next to their health bar, and that's disappointing. Hell, I wasn't even sure I was fighting the main bad guy at the end of the game. He didn't look like a main bad guy. There are no weapon upgrades here. There are a couple of force power-ups you collect over the course of the game, the level of which is noted with an S on your screen, but other than that, your sword is your weapon, and that's that. No laser sword upgrade, nothing. You do collect magic though, which is unleashed like a smart bomb with various flourishes. You collect gold, but there is no shop of any kind. Gold just ends up being your score. You also collect keys, which allows you to open chests in bonus stages, which is where you can find more gold. It's something to do. Because it's a Super Nintendo game, you get a cool Super Nintendo effect on the map screen. That's fun. Legend is fine. I enjoyed playing through it, but again, it is fairly standard. The next year, Arcade Zone made Iron Commando, also for the Super Nintendo. This one was originally going to be published by Sony, but around this time, Sony stopped publishing on other consoles to focus on the PlayStation, understandably. So it was done, finished, and unreleased. Pack-In Video localized and then released it only in Japan later that year. It didn't show up anywhere else until Pico Interactive acquired the rights in 2016, releasing it on Steam and then on a reproduction Super Nintendo cartridge, and on various platforms like Evercade, and now twice in QuByte compilations. These are all good results, a seemingly obscure game to most of the world, made available and preserved for future generations on a number of different platforms, both physically and digitally. That's what we like to see around here. A meteor hits the Earth, and a terrorist organization called Ghost wants to get that meteor and turn everyone into monsters or something. Your job, as part of the group known as Iron Commando, is to stop Ghost, and you do so by picking either Jack or Chang Li and killing everything in your path. In certain stages, the action is broken up by some insanely out-of-place vehicular combat levels that are super dumb, and therefore super fun. Iron Commando is a tough one. Some might even say that in later stages, it actively hates you. There was some discussion going around when this re-release first came out that easy and hard were accidentally swapped in the menu settings. I don't know if that's still the case here, but it is no joke on easy mode. You are constantly being surrounded and swarmed by enemies, and the timing usually works out to where you can only get in 2 hits on the enemies in front of you before the ones behind you hit you. Weapon pickups can help slightly, but guns like the shotgun require some time before they fire, and often you just don't have time. Each gun usually also only has 3 or less shots in it, so many times it doesn't even seem beneficial to pick one up. And it's not like the guns are instant kills on enemies, it seems to take as many shots as it does punches. Legend and Iron Commando have a lot of similarities. Your jump kick in both games is almost identical, for example. Also, dogs. You have to kill waves and waves and waves of dogs. Boom. You pick up items automatically in Legend, but in Iron Commando, you have a dedicated pickup item button. This makes sense for weapons because maybe you don't want to switch from the machine gun to the stick, but this makes it incredibly frustrating to pick up health and ammo because you have an extremely limited time before they blink out of existence, and you have to be almost pixel perfect on top of them for it to work. And both games love foreground obstacles. In many stages, the action will be obscured by something in the foreground, which, while neat looking, eventually just starts to make you mad because you can't, see. I enjoyed Iron Commando more than Legend thanks to the various weapon power-ups and other improvements. But my favorite thing about it was seeing each new enemy and trying to figure out why they joined up with a terrorist organization that's interested in radioactive meteors. 1920s street toughs, 70s gang members, these Bayou Billy weirdos, big sword ladies, trained attack snakes with weapons, Incans, aliens with ray guns, Fidel Castro clones. It takes all kinds, I guess. A company named Vivid Image produced the next game called First Samurai for computers such as the Amiga and Atari ST in 1991. It later came to other computers like the Commodore 64 and DOS machines before eventually being published by Kemco for the Super Nintendo in 1993. The Demon King is up to no good because, yeah, he's the Demon King. After your sensei humiliates him, the Demon King escapes to the future, and now you, as the first samurai, have to pursue him across time. You start each level by teleporting in, Terminator style. Then you're ready to start hacking and slashing everything with your sword, which teleports in a few seconds later. In each level, you're looking for 5 magical runes, which when collected will allow you to progress to the boss. Some are just out in the open, while others require the help of the wizard mage, who you summon by ringing bells that you also collect. You can ring your bells anywhere without penalty, but there are certain places the game wants you to use them to activate the wizard mage, who will help you by putting out fires or making obstacles smashable so that you can move forward. Later stages are quite vague about where you're supposed to be doing this. Its computer game era origins certainly shine through whenever you have to engage with this particular mechanic. You also collect warp lanterns, which will take you back to the start of the stage in case you get stuck. And a couple of limited use weapons that I never really engaged with that much. It probably stands out in this collection as the game most unlike any of the others. It's single player only and features a bunch of mechanics not usually present in these genres. It's more like a platforming adventure game with item inventory and occasional puzzles to manage. Then there's the story, while only a few sentences long, is pretty insane. After you defeat the boss of stage 1, you take a ride on the time train to get to stage 2. Later, you will use the time elevator. Eventually, you end up in the far-flung future, fighting supercomputers. It's all very silly, and again, it's why I love video games. Do weird stuff, I love it. Now, all that being said, First Samurai is not my favorite game to play in this collection, but it is certainly unique, I will give it that. Vivid Image produced a sequel to First Samurai called, you guessed it, Second Samurai for the Amiga in 1993. The following year it was released on the Sega Mega Drive. Both releases were published by Psygnosis, which is wild, and both only came out in Europe. Well, now the rest of the world can enjoy the Mega Drive version, which is the one in this collection. It's called The Second Samurai on the title screen, and you will notice that there are now 2 characters present. Yep, 2-player support was added for the sequel, so you and a friend can now play together. However, the first player is always the dude, and player 2 is always the lady. If you're playing solo, you can't choose your character, which is stupid. It's another time-traveling adventure for our samurai friends, but the game never mentions this. In fact, there is no story presented in the game at all. If you just got this cartridge loose, you would have no idea why you are fighting cavemen and monkeys, and then suddenly robots. Although that change comes much later in the game than you might think. You are still fighting cavemen and plant monsters well into the 6th or the 7th stage, when suddenly, wham, it's the future, and you're fighting Terminators. Everyone explodes when you kill them too. Toss a monkey into a caveman and everyone explodes. It's very silly. You touch gems in each level, which break apart to reveal something else you have to touch in order to collect it. That's not annoying. You get sub-weapons, health pickups, scrolls, etc. Some scrolls will clear the screen, and the game will proclaim that to be wicked. Other scrolls will give you a laser sword, yes, finally. But then sometimes it seems to go away almost immediately after you start using it. If it's on a timer, that information is not conveyed anywhere on screen. Maybe it's damage based, like in The Legend of Zelda, I'm just not clear on that. The goal in each level is to break open these blue jars, which apparently contain souls. Once you free the number of souls noted at the bottom of your screen, you go bump into this vortex thing and you'll be allowed to continue on in the stage. These red jars can also be smacked to unleash a bunch of souls, but doing so doesn't increase your score or decrease the number of souls you need to collect. It's just a checkpoint marker. Like Iron Commando, this game will be broken up with out-of-nowhere vehicle type stages, like this one where you're riding a flaming lava platform, immediately followed by you riding a dinosaur trying to catch the blue jars that are flying through the air while you're also jumping over obstacles. And sadly, this stage sucks. You have to run full speed to even get the jars to enter the frame, and you basically have to guess when an obstacle is coming, unless you just have perfect reaction times and 0 lag in your setup. And I'm not even going to spoil the later vehicle level you participate in because it is insane, and I want you to discover that one for yourself. Like the previous installment, this still isn't what you'd think of as a typical belt-scroller hack-and-slash thing, but it's more like one of those than First Samurai was. Some of the animation on the enemies is really good. There's a lot to do here, and some of the surprises along the way are genuinely entertaining. You even get the roll call of enemies during the closing credits, which is a feature I have always loved. Let's take a quick break from the games for a moment to talk about more features in this new collection, as there are some added benefits here over the previous re-releases of these games. The interface clearly shows you some basic information as you scroll through the games, such as year of release, number of players, and if there's co-op play or not. Elsewhere in the menus, you will find manuals for each game and different screen filters for when you want to fine-tune how your old games look on your modern TV. Best of all, for me anyway, is that optional cheats are now available for each game in the menus. You might want the pure experience and not want to engage with these. That's totally cool. I need them on to get a wide range of footage to use in this video, and really, I just like being able to see the entire game start to finish. I'm not playing these old games to get on leaderboards or for bragging rights or anything. I just want to see everything the game has to offer. Okay, let's get the simple facts for this next game out of the way first. Gourmet Warriors is a 1995 Super Nintendo release that was exclusive to Japan. Pico Interactive obtained the rights and in 2018 began releasing it worldwide, both digitally and physically, with new localization. And now everyone can play this beat 'em up. That being said, this is a borderline game for sickos right here. You play as one of these 3 French characters battling against these weirdies who all want to cause mayhem and whatnot. All the enemies you encounter will be equally uncomfortable or possibly sexual in some way, like this guy with a syringe for an extremity. Or these little weirdo freaks. You've got a dedicated pose button. It serves no in-game function and does not benefit you in any way. You just stop and pose. Some enemies, when stunned, will stand on their heads where you can then continue punching them in the junk, albeit more easily now. And sometimes if you hit the pose button while an enemy is standing on their head, you will stand on top of them and pose. Usually once per level, you will have the opportunity to gain a ghost version of yourself, who will fight alongside you until their health runs out. Although usually they just stand there and pose while you do all the work. You can damage each other, so be aware of that. I would assume the same goes for when you're playing with a real friend. Enemies drop food when defeated, but they are not your typical power-ups. At the end of each level, you are presented with an inventory of all the food items that you've acquired. You can combine 2 of them into a meal, and your choices will dictate how much health you recover before the start of the next stage. If time expires before you complete a level, you lose your entire food inventory. It's a unique way to do things. At first I thought this option in the menus was to control the amount of, shall we say, lewdness in the game, but I now believe it's just the game's difficulty level. I picked spicy regardless. This one is out there, folks, but that's not a problem. It's a good change from the other more standard games in the collection. Water Margin, A Tale of Clouds and Wind, was another Japanese exclusive release that years later was finally released worldwide, digitally and physically, this time in Sega Genesis form. It's based on classic Chinese literature that has been adapted dozens and dozens of times over the centuries in almost all forms of media. Please note when selecting your difficulty when starting the game, because playing the game on easy or grunt mode will not net you the achievement for beating the game, and also does not give you an ending of any kind except to say, thanks for playing on baby mode, now play a real mode if you want to see how the game ends. That's rude. I ended up having to play through this one twice as a result. In Water Margin, you get to choose from 3 characters, including a lady. Then you're off to slash everything in your path. Of all the games here, I believe this would be considered the most recent, and also somehow, it is the most generic. Maybe it'll mean more to you if you are familiar with the source material, but judging it strictly as a video game, it is the most basic of the bunch. Every enemy you kill makes the same ghostly moan sound when they die. The monotony of your actions of walking right and mashing one single button can occasionally be broken up with one of several environmental attacks that are pretty sweet. No laser swords though. Still, it's totally fine. It is an average one of these. It's not great and it's not bad. It's average. It's fine. Maybe start with this one though when you fire up the collection so it doesn't seem like a letdown after playing through some of the bangers. And finally, there's Sword of Sodan, which started life on the Amiga and then was brought to the Sega Genesis in 1990. It's infamous in several different circles in that the Amiga game is generally well regarded, and the Genesis version is not. You can choose between dude and lady, which is something that several other games in this collection couldn't even get right. So, bonus point for Sword of Sodan, but that's the only one it's gonna earn. Choose from either Brodan or Shardan and take down an evil necromancer. You'll probably be a hero or something if you do. I was not trying to save the worst for last, but that is exactly what happened here. This is pretty lousy. You just walk and slash your sword around. There is no way to dodge or block, and most enemies have a longer reach than you do. There are pits that you can't see until you're in one, and many other random obstacles that just appear, and then the jerk-ass game lets you die before it warns you about their existence. You collect potions which can either help or hurt you when you drink them, and they can be combined into other beverages. You're just a regular medieval mixologist, and this is actually the most engaging part of the game, really. At least it's short when you turn on infinite lives. That's the best thing I can say about Sword of Sodan. Sword of Sodan aside, this is a great collection of similar styled video games from the 16-bit era. As usual, I highly recommend getting a friend and playing through the ones here that have available co-op play, as those are the most fun. But you'll still be able to be entertained if this era is one you're fond of and you've never played these before. And even if you just want to turn on cheats and power your way through them all, you're still looking at 10 to 12 hours of gameplay. And for $20, that's a great value. So check out the beat-em-up collection. This kind of preservation work should be supported. So what are some other beat-em-up or hack-and-slash games from the era that I should check out? I still feel the need to beat some things up. I'm familiar with all the major ones, but are there any like these that you think have slipped through the cracks and need some attention? Those are the ones I want to hear about. Let me know so I can give them a look in the future. Thank you all for watching this review. It was a fun one to put together, and it's a collection I wholeheartedly recommend. I will see you next time. Take care.